Hi everyone, this is Joy and welcome back to my channel. Scrapbook.com sent me a bunch of exclusive stuff of theirs to play around with. It's from their Christmas in July. They have a good sale going on now through the 31st. And so I made 4 cards and a couple of gift tags. So I'm going to show you what they sent. So they sent me a ton of good stuff. First of all, they sent me some double-sided adhesive tape. This is the only thing I ended up not using. I literally used everything else that they sent me. I think I forgot to use it because it was buried under all my other stuff when I was working on my desk, but I will definitely use this later. So they sent that adhesive. Then I have an acrylic block, and I like that it kind of has the wavy side because I feel like you can hang on to it better. And then they sent me some of their little precision scissors. These are the 4-inch scissors. I did use those. They worked great. They sent me their ink blending tool. It's the domed foam, which I have never used, and I can tell you I really, really liked it. So that was awesome. Then they sent me their Christmas smooth cardstock. This is 8.5 by 3.5, so it's the Slimline dimensions. It's got some really beautiful colors in here. I really enjoyed the deep green, and those reds are so gorgeous. Then we've got this great stencil. This is the vintage floral stencil, then the trees stencil, and I like how large these are. And then we've got this great Merry Little Christmas stamp. Look at how many sentiments are on there. So I had fun with these. And then the die cut, this is the Tall Skinny Numbers die. And then a large piece 12 by 12 of patterned paper for some, I'm going to actually use it for the tags. So really pretty with all the Christmas trees on it. So the green here for the tags, I die cut from that Christmas smooth cardstock. I brought in a few other supplies. So like the tag dies here, these are from Fawn. These are the Say What gift tags. And I die cut them out 10 times total, but for each tag, I'm going to glue 5 of them together because we're going to make little shaker tags. I'm going to glue the first 4 together. This is going to give it some dimension. Then we're going to add some acetate and then glue the 5th one on the top. So we want that acetate sandwiched between some cardstock pieces. You could do some foam tape behind this if you did not want to die cut out a bunch of these tags. I like it because then you have the solid green all the way through. I also did not need this to be super tall because we're going to be using the Distress Mica Flakes. And they're pretty flat and little, so I didn't need a ton of room. So I'm going to finish gluing these together, and then you can see the background piece because there's 2 pieces to this die. The background piece is what I die cut from that patterned paper that I got from scrapbook.com. So I'm going to finish gluing those together, and then I'm going to come in with my piece of acetate, and I'm just using some liquid glue. I'm going to line that up, and then I'm just going to trim off the excess. I'm going to let that dry just a tiny bit, and then trim off the excess off of both of these. These shaker cards are really simple to make. Now I do want to apologize because I did not hit the record button when I filled these up with the Distress Mica Flakes. So after I glue the top part, the last front part of the tag frame to the piece with the acetate, if that makes sense, sorry. Then I'm going to flip that over and fill up the mica flakes inside. So here's where I'm going to glue these together. So after I glue those together, I'm going to flip that over, fill up the mica flakes on the inside of the acetate piece, add a little bit of liquid glue around the frame, and then just adhere down the back pieces with the trees. The trees are going to be the parts that show through to the mica flakes. Before I'm going to do that though, I need to stamp the little tag sayings on the back, and I am using the tiny tag sayings from Fawn. So it says, do not open until December 25th, and then to and from. And I'm just stamping that with some jet black ink. I'm using my Misty because that holds it in place nicely. I'm going to stamp that a couple times, put my next one in, and stamp it down. Then I can add this tree side down. As you can see, that stamped part is on the back. Adhere those together and you can see the mica flakes on the inside. Again, I want to apologize for not hitting record when I was filling that up. I couldn't even tell you what I did. So now I'm just going to stick some gold and white string through here and just tie this at the top for my tags. But as you can see, these are really super cute. They're really quick and easy to make, especially when you're using a patterned paper and a colored cardstock. It kept it really simple. And I like the trees and I like that green. This is really kind of that country kind of feel to me. This would be cute with a buffalo check or a plaid. Like if that was your wrapping paper, I think these tags would be really, really darling with that. So I'm just going to finish tying that off and trimming off the edges. And then these are just great little shaker cards. They're not super large. They're not going to be in the way, but I think anybody would like to have these on their presents. But look at the mica flakes in there. And it really doesn't cover up the back scene too much. You can still see the pretty trees from the pattern paper through there. So on to our first card. I'm going to stamp, I need the sentiment that says, "It's Christmas." Well, it's at the bottom of a whole large stamp set that says, "Oh dear, it's Christmas." So I'm just inking up the bottom part because that's the only part I need. And I'm just going to use my paper trimmer to trim that out. As you can see, I used the new acrylic block there and I really liked it. It's heavy duty, so I felt like I had good control over it. So now I've got my little sentiment. I have die cut everything else ahead of time. These poinsettias are from Spellbinders. Oh, what is it called? Christmas Bloom. And so I'm just going to use a few of those. And then we've got the die cut numbers. I have 25, of course, for the 25th of Christmas or of December. And these are from, this is scrapbook.com's Tall and Skinny Numbers die. And I like how thin these are. This is something that you definitely are going to glue multiple pieces together if you want dimension, which is what I'm doing here, because you are not going to trim down foam tape small enough to do that. You could put this on some fun foam and stick it and then die cut it that way, but I'm just die cut tons of them from the red cardstock from the Christmas cardstock paper I got from scrapbook.com. Now here is that new blender brush and this beautiful vintage floral stencil. I have this on a piece of craft cardstock and I'm just using some white ink. This is, oh, where is it at? This is from, oh, this is Ranger's Glacier White Pigment Ink. And I'm just using that and stenciling that through the stencil. So you're going to have the white on the craft and it's really, really beautiful. This kind of pigment ink takes forever to dry. So set it aside to dry so you don't smudge it. Then I have a circle die cut and I just die cut that from white cardstock. Here's some more of those leaves and flowers. And again, that's from the Christmas Bloom from Spellbinders that I'm just adding to this. And you can get this on scrapbook.com's website. I do have everything listed and linked below in the description for everything that I made here. I did die cut that from that Christmas cardstock from scrapbook.com with the red. This is the lighter red and they do have a deeper red. And then that beautiful dark green. And I'm just using my tweezers and some liquid glue to adhere everything down. I'm going to glue together my holly and then I have the poinsettia there. And you could see that I lifted up the leaves on the poinsettia flower because that's going to give it some dimension. I did add foam tape behind that circle. That also has dimension as well. And I'm just going to finish gluing this together and then we're going to tuck in the 25 and the It's Christmas sentiment. What I like about this red cardstock here, it really kind of feels like the vintage red. So I think it's really pretty on that craft cardstock and with this darker green. So I'm just going to adhere those numbers down and isn't that so fun? I just love how thin these die numbers are. I don't have anything like this in my stash, so I'm really glad that I have it now. I'm going to add some foam tape behind that sentiment and just adhere that down. And then I'm going to come in with some Christmas red stickles and add that to the center of the flower and to the berries, and then I'm just going to add really tiny dots to the white stenciled flowers on the background. I felt like it needed a little bit of red back there, and just the tiniest little dot absolutely did this for me. And I adhered this to a white A2 size card base, and then you've got this beautiful, beautiful Christmas card. I just love how this turned out. Okay, on to our next project. I am stenciling with the trees, and this is a Slimline card. So this is the trees stencil. I'm using 3 colors of Distress Oxide inks. I'm using that domed blender brush. This is Pine Needles, Rustic Wilderness, and Peeled Paint. And I'm just, there's different shapes of trees on the stencil, so I'm just adding different colors of green. I felt like that needed it for this card. This is a large card. It has a lot of real estate on it, so I really wanted to have a bunch of different colors, and it was pretty easy with this domed foam to get it in there. Some of the color went onto some of the other trees. I wasn't worried about that. I just love how it turned out. It really is quite pretty. So once I peel that back, it's all colorful. Okay, on a piece of white cardstock in my MISTI, I am stamping the sentiment that says, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." And again, that is from the stamp set from scrapbook.com. I stamped it with Versamark ink. I'm using some gold embossing powder, and I'm going to heat that through. Then I'm going to die cut that with a circle die, and we're going to put this card together. This was a really simple and quick card to make, but I think it is just really kind of playful with all of those trees. So I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. And this stamp set, the sentiment is from the Merry Little Christmas stamp. Then that red cardstock is from the Christmas cardstock. And I trimmed that down about 1/4 of an inch smaller than a Slimline card. Slimline is 8.5 by 3.5. And then the tree, I trimmed that down even smaller. So now we have a red mat and a white mat. I'm going to adhere down that circle sentiment with some foam tape. And I'm actually going to have it hang off the side a little bit. And I'm just going to trim that excess off. I didn't want this right in the center. I wanted it to be a little bit abstract. Then I'm coming in with the same stickles and just adding a few dots here and there, and then this card is going to be complete. And I love all the green on this, and that red frame really makes a huge difference. Okay, so on the next card we are going to use that tree stencil again. I did prep my background with an anti-static powder tool. I was just using my paintbrush to move the powder around because we're going to be doing some white heat embossing on this. So I'm just using my blender tool and some Versamark ink and just getting that ink really good into all of the little openings of the trees there. This is an A2 size card. So I'm going to be doing kind of the white on white look, which I really like. And I thought these trees would be really gorgeous in white. That would also be pretty on a red cardstock as well. That could really stand out and pop. So I sprinkled on the white embossing powder, and then I'm just using my heat tool and heating it until it's melted. You know it's melted because it's nice and shiny, and you can check it in the light, and if you see any dull spots, just hit it with your heat tool again. Now in my MISTI, I have a piece of white cardstock, and I'm using the sentiment, "Oh dear, it's Christmas." And I want to stamp the little antlers on the O in a different color than I want to stamp the actual sentiment. So I'm just using some tape and masking off the sentiment. I'm going to ink the antlers up with some black ink because we're going to do some super quick Copic coloring on the antlers. So I'm going to stamp those down. Then I'm going to come in and mask the antlers off because I want to stamp the sentiment in a different color. I'm actually just using a red ink. I'm using lobster ink from Fawn. I like that red. It's a really yummy red. And when you see this stamp, when I stamp it down, it's almost going to look messy, but the O almost looks like it's the fur from the deer. So it kind of looks wonky. It's supposed to look like that because the first couple times I stamped it, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I paid attention to the actual stamp itself, and it was fine. So I'm just coming in with a couple colors, a light brown and a medium brown, just super quick Copic coloring, but I thought that turned out really, really cute. You could also hand draw in some ornaments or something off of the antlers, and it would be super cute. I trimmed that piece down, and I'm matting it on a piece of that darker green Christmas cardstock, smooth cardstock. And then I'm also trimming down the embossed background. And now you can see that has a little mat and it pops off. I'm also going to add some foam tape behind it because I do want it to have some dimension. And I'm going to center that in there and then just apply this to a white A2 size card base, so you also have a little frame there. But you can see how beautiful that white on white is, and the white Christmas trees are kind of shiny and it's really pretty. Okay, for the next card, let's use that beautiful vintage floral stencil and some red ink. I am using some Distress Oxide inks. This is Candied Apple, and then I'm going to use Barn Door for the little flowers in there. And I just think when I peel this back, you're going to see how beautiful the stencil is, number one. This is the one we used on the first card, but having it in red is so pretty. And I like that this is not necessarily a Christmas stencil or a Christmas item, but it is really pretty. I am adhering or gluing together 2 parts of a pine cone. This is from the Christmas blooms from Spellbinders. I just die cut that from some cardstock. We're going to make it look like it has some snow on it. So I'm using an emboss it pen and some textured white embossing powder. If you do not have emboss it pen, all you need to do, and this works just as good, is take your embossing ink pad and just brush it across the top of that die cut gently. Here is that textured white embossing powder. What I like about this is when you take the heat tool to it, it dries or it melts chunky. So it looks like snow. It is fantastic. And I just love these pine cones to have snow on it because to me it feels more Christmassy and less fall. So I'm going to heat that with my heat tool, and then we're going to put this little mini slimline card together. A mini slimline dimension is 6.5 by 3.5. I trimmed down that stenciled piece about 1/4 inch smaller. Now I have that in my MISTI. My ink is dry on here because we're going to be doing some heat embossing, so you want to make sure you do not have wet ink. I did prep it with my powder tool, and I'm going to stamp this sentiment that says Happy Holidays, and it's actually a wreath, and it has some little florals all the way around. And I'm going to use some gold embossing powder, and then I'm going to melt that, and I did center that in the middle of the card. And then we're going to just add some greenery and those pine cones to the top of it, which I think is really, really pretty. Against that bright red, I just love how that turned out. So I'm just going to use some liquid glue and adhere down the little pine needle leaves, pine tree pieces, I guess is what they would be called. And then I'm going to center those 2 pine cones that we made look like they have snow covered on them right in the center. And I'm going to tuck a couple more of the pine cone needles in and around the pine cones. Then I'm going to mat this on a piece of that darker green cardstock from the Christmas Smooth cardstock. And I'm going to trim that down because again, this is a mini slimline card. And then I'm going to adhere that to a white card base. But I just think this is so stunning, and I love those 2 greens. It's the same color green, but it's so pretty to have the green mat and then the green leaves on there. Now all my projects are done. I had a ton of fun making them. I hope you had fun watching them. Definitely go check out scrapbook.com's website for all of the sales that they've got going on till the 31st. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. If you like what you have seen here, please subscribe to my channel, comment, thumbs up, share, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.